I'm George Pearson, and this is a Photoshop Elements Scrapbook project making a scrapbook style page. Now if you enjoy this video project, make sure that you subscribe to my channel and also click on that like button. If you really want to learn everything about Photoshop Elements, then check out my full training titles available on Amazon and also my website, and you'll find the links for those at the end of this video and also in the description. In this project, we'll be doing this scrapbook page effect that looks kind of like everything has been cut out and pasted onto the page, and then like it's had some artistic work done here around the edges. I'll also show you how to do these little kind of custom gradients in here, custom chalk effects here and on this picture down there. You can then take these basic techniques and apply them anywhere you want to really add a lot of freehand style artistic look to your image. Okay, let's go ahead and see how this picture has been built. I'm just going to close this one out. There we go. And we'll start with a brand new page. So I'll go File, New, Blank File. And here we go. I'm working with the default Photoshop Elements size. I've been asked a few times recently, why this particular size. And that's just because it's the default and it's easy to use for these videos. It's a good size for the videos. That's the only reason for that. Now the resolution of 300 down here, this is a printing resolution. If you want to print your pictures, you want to have this at 300 resolution. Choose OK, and I'll just dock that right there. There we go. Now the first thing I want to do is to divide the page up into quadrants, and we'll use guidelines for that. I'll grab one here from the left hand side. I'll just drag it in right in towards the middle. It will snap at that middle point. There we go. And I'll drag one down from the top. This will also snap at that middle point. There it is. Now I want to have this divided in half, and this one, and this one, and we'll just visualize those. The first one will be at the 1.5 inch mark, so I'll just pull it in from the left hand side here. There we go, 1.5 inch, approximately, good enough. And next one will be at about 4.5 inch. I'll pull it in. You can actually see the exact dimensional number there in that little pop-up. There we go, right there. Or if you want to be really specific, you can go to View and New Guide and put in a definite number, but it's not really that critical on this one, so I'm just going to kind of just eyeball these into the right position. There we go. Now if you don't want to use numbers, inch numbers in your rulers, or it's saying something else, just right click on the ruler like that, and you can then choose a different measurement size. That works on either the top or the left hand side. If you change one, they both change. So here's pixels, they're both changed, and I'll right click and put that back to inches again. Okay, so just divide this up into kind of quarters like this. We're now going to make the shapes that we'll use to build everything off of, and that's a basic ellipse. I have my color set at black right there, foreground black, and it's unconstrained and it's not from center. And then just go right here. If you look in here, it's kind of a big rectangle in the middle right there. We're going to do that one. So click on the top left hand corner and drag down to the bottom right hand corner of that shape. Now the ellipse should snap right to those guidelines. If it's not snapping to the guidelines, you'll kind of feel that as you go. If it isn't doing that, go up to View and check Snap To and make sure that Guides is checked right there. Okay, so there's one. And though we have our first ellipse, we'll make copies of this and put one for each one of these outside corners. Just grab the shape, go up to the New Layer button, just like that. There's my copy, and I'll drag this one upper left-hand corner. It'll kind of snap into position. And let's come back here to our middle one. Same thing, drag it up here in upper right-hand corner. Come back down to this one, same thing. And I'll drag it bottom left-hand corner, and then one more time from that original one, and drag it to the bottom right-hand corner. There we go. The reason I did that, where I was actually copying this instead of making new ones each time, is that I want to have these all exactly the same, and that's why you do it by just copying it. Okay, now take the one that says Shape 1, that's your one in the center, and just drag that to the top. We want to have that one in front of everything else. Okay, those are our basic ellipse shapes. Everything we built off of these basic shapes. We now need to bring our pictures in, and I'll go over here to File, and I'm just placing these, and I have 5 pictures that I've grabbed in here. These are all from the Calico ghost town out in San Bernardino, California, in case you're curious. and I'll just bring these in one at a time. Now the top one, which goes above this, that's going to be that picture right there. Choose place, and it should come in right above like that, and it does. That's just fine. And then now take the corner and drag it down, and I'll just bring this down so it fits into that. Now the ratio is a little bit off, as you can see here. It's a little taller than it is wide. That's fine. I'll use my key, the arrow keys in the keyboard, to move that down just a touch, a little better positioning on that. Choose OK. There's our first one. Now come down to that shape. There's the shape selected. You can kind of see how the picture fits inside that shape now. Hold the Control key down and click on that shape thumbnail. Go back up to the picture layer and then click on the layer mask. And it puts the picture into that layer mask. Okay, I'm just going to hide that now, make this easy. And we'll come down to our next one here. And then File, Place. I'll grab my next picture. I'll use that one in here. Now I have these pictures available on the video support webpage. You'll find that link in the description. Go ahead and place. There it is. Let's just move this upper left hand corner. And again, same thing. Grab that corner and just drag it up until it fits. That's fine. And that's going to be upper left hand corner. There it is. Come down to that shape. Hold the Control key. Click on the icon. That makes the selection. Come back up to the picture layer, click on the layer mask, and there it is inside of that. The next picture will be for in here, so let's go over to that spot right there. That's that shape. And then File, Place, and there's the wagon. Choose Place. It just comes in on the page like that. So I'm going to push it to the right hand side, grab the bottom corner. Let's just drag that up until it fits into that quadrant, and then look at that visually. That looks pretty good. Looking at this line as the bottom, click on the green check mark. There we go. Same thing as before. Come down to the shape just beneath it, hold the Control key down, click on the shape icon. That selects it. Go back to the image, click on the layer mask, and that puts it inside the layer mask. Okay, there's two of those. Our next one will be the bottom left hand corner. That's that one right down there. There's our shape. File, Place. We use the wagon wheel down there. There we go. Choose Place. Same thing. Drag it over to get into the position, upper right hand corner this time, and drag that down so it fits. There we go. I'll use my cursor keys and just bring that wagon wheel down a bit so it fits better in that shape. That looks pretty good. And check mark. There we go. Come to the shape just beneath that one. Hold the Control key down. Click on that icon. There's your selection. Back up to the image and layer mask. There we go. Okay, last one. That's the bottom shape right down here. Same exact sequence. So File, Place. That's our last one in here, and that's this Adobe building right there. Choose Place. There it is. And we'll drag that into position as well and resize that as well. There we go. And I'll bring that down a bit. I think I want more sky showing in this one. Kind of like that. Come down to the shape just beneath. Control key and click. There's your selection. Back up to the image and layer mask. Okay, let's now show that top one again. And there we go. We now have all of these pictures in the right shapes on the page. That's all set and ready to go. Let's now work on our background. I'm going to hide all of this stuff. Just kind of come down the line here and hide all of those. And look at our background. Let's fill the background with a solid color. We no longer need these guides at this point, so I'm just going to hide the guides. So View and uncheck that. There we go. And let's go to the color swatch. And I'll use a color here, a specific kind of a tan color in here. Now the one that I used on this one is FCEABB. There we go. Just kind of a light tan. Notice I'm in the middle of the orange range in here and over on the light hand side. Just kind of a light tan. Choose OK. Paint bucket and fill. There we go. We now want a texture on this so it looks like it's a piece of paper, kind of art paper. And we'll do that with a filter. So filter and filter gallery. In the filter gallery, there we go. At the bottom down here is the texture section. And choose texturizer right there. You have different texture choices: brick, burlap, canvas, and sandstone. Sandstone is what you want in this case. And let's have the scaling. Scaling's okay at 125, maybe 100, just a little bit softer. At 100%, that's okay. And the relief here at 9 is okay as well. I'm going to set the light for the top left corner up in here. It just gives us kind of just a surface texture onto this thing. You can change the numbers any way you want up here. For instance, I could set this to say 15 and make this real small. We could go to 150 and make the texture a lot rougher. You leave it at just 100% if you want to. It's kind of a mid-tone range in there. So you can go ahead and choose whatever range you want here for your scaling. And then the relief, you'll see as I pull this up, it does that for you. So the relief is how much texture you're seeing on that. And I think on this one, 9 is a good number for that texture. Now if I zoom in on this, the zoom control is right down here. Let's just come down to 100%. That's the actual texture you're seeing there. So you can adjust the relief to soften that up a little bit if you want to, or make it a bit more. And for me, I think between 6 and 9 is a nice number. I'll leave 9 for this project. Choose OK. So now don't worry about this kind of weird patterning in here. We're zoomed out at 33 1/3%. If I zoom into 100% on this, so view, and let's do actual pixels, it looks real smooth. You don't have that kind of strange banding effect in there. So the banding effect is only coming in because we're zoomed out so far. So I'll zoom out, and let's go ahead and fit on screen. So again, so don't worry about how it looks here. It'll look better once you zoom in and it's the right size. That's just kind of a little visual artifact here inside of Photoshop Elements. You also can soften this down later on if you want to. Towards the end, you can soften it up by blurring it a little bit. That's really up to you. Okay, so there's our basic background texture. And let's bring our pictures back in again here. There we go. Now, we need to have that big thick border around all of these, like a pasted on border. Right now these look like they're just kind of pasted on the page, but I want a big thick border on these as well. And we can do that by using our shapes. Let's do the top one first. You can see the idea. I'm going to take the shape here and pull it to the above the picture. There we go. We can do that for all of these. We'll just do them as we go down. Now I'm going to be needing all of these shape layers converted from shapes into just regular graphics. Let's do that right at this point. Click on the name, or right click rather on the name, and choose Simplify Layer. So do that for all 5 of these at this point. Simplify Layer, just come down, do that for each one. You see this little icon on the bottom right hand corner will go away as soon as you do that. There we go, and get the bottom one down here. Okay, let's now go back to our top one. Hold down the Control key and click on that shape. Click on the icon. That gives you that selection of the contents of that layer. That's what we want. Let's now modify this selection. Go up here to Select, come down to Modify and Contract. And I have it set at 50 pixels. Choose OK. Just brings that in like that. Now all you need to do is hit the Delete key, and that cuts that middle piece out. We can then deselect that selection. There we go. Now that I have this, I can use this to cut, or copy rather, a piece of the background and stick it on top. So again, on that icon, hold the Control key down, click on that. That makes that selection. Come down to the background and then Layer, New, via Copy. And there we go. Now drag this above that shape, and there it is. Now to give us a look of this being on paper, I'm going to use my arrow keys on the keyboard and click up once and click over once, just up once and over once, and that uses that background shape as a little bit of a drop shadow, a real thin drop shadow. Okay, down to this shape, Set this one at 50% so it's not quite as strong, and that's done. Now that we have our first outline created, we can go ahead and just copy these layers and put them onto the other layers. I'm going to hide these shapes in the background, and we no longer need those. Okay, I'll grab the shape, copy that, bring it down above the next picture down below. That's this picture, and then just drag it over like that. It should snap right into place. If it doesn't, you may want to just bring your guides back up again. Go ahead and show those guides. It'll snap right to those guides. Same thing with the outline here, our paper outline. Drag up and copy that. Drag it down below that layer, and then drag that over and just put it on top. You can use your arrow keys if you want to get it exact, and then up one and over one. There you go, for a little thin outline in there. I'm going to take those two. Let's just do this in one step this time. Hold the Control key down, make sure they're both selected, drag it up here. Gives you copies of both. I'll just drag that down to above the next picture. This is the upper right hand corner, and I'll just drag that over like that and drop it into place. And again, the arrow key is kind of just to tidy up that position. Same thing again, grab those, copy that, pull it down above the next picture. That's the bottom left hand corner. So you pull the upper right hand to the bottom left, so I'll just pull that down like that. Use my arrow keys to get it about into the right position, and then over and up one. There we go. One last one to go. That's our bottom right hand picture. Again, copy. There we go. Drag that down above that picture, and then just drag that copy over. And arrow keys to kind of tap it into its final position. Start about here, then up and over just a touch. There we go. So there's the basic outlines, and we can then hide our guides again. Now what we have left to do is to put in our little gradients in here. We'll first do some gradients on the edges of these circles in behind the top, or the ovals in behind that top one, and then we'll do some gradients on the outside and then roughen up those a little bit. I'll use my zoom tool here, and let's just zoom in upper left hand corner. We'll do it on this one right here. Now I want to put this gradient just on here and over here. That's what we're looking for, is this area and this area. So you need to select just that part. I need to zoom out a little bit now, just one or two steps. So we can pull our gradient about like that. That's about the space. I can kind of see where the middle is of this one. I can see the middle of that one. That's all I need to do this gradient. Okay, this is upper left hand corner. Let's just see where that is. I'll roll up here. That's this one right there. So I'm on the layer in here that has that shape. Hold the Control key down, click on that. That selects that shape. You can see right there. Make a new layer above that. This will be our gradient layer right here. Now for this, I need to have kind of a mid-tone brown, and the one that I used on here, the color that I used on here for this mid-tone brown gradient effect, I'll just type this in, 9D6B01. So we're still kind of in the oranges in here, but we're over here on the right hand side. It's kind of a mid sepia brown. Anything around in here is fine. You don't have to be exactly that, but it's around that position. It's clear to the right because this is full saturation on the right hand side. Choose OK. Let's now go to the gradient tool, and let's set this at foreground to transparent. So there's a color. We just set the color, and then foreground to transparent is the second option up here on the default presets, and choose OK. Now if I grab from about the middle in here of this picture and go to the middle up here, kind of like that, that gives me a bit of a gradient up there. I need a little more down here. I'll go from the middle of this bottom picture up to the middle of that picture. Gives me a little more gradient in there. There we go. So there's our gradients on that one. Okay, let's go ahead and deselect and move over here to the right hand side. Let's do this one in here. Same exact trick. So the right hand side, that's this shape right there. If you're not really sure, just show and hide it and you can see that you're on the right one, just like that. Okay, back to the Move tool, click on the layer, hold the Control key down, click on the layer. That makes that selection. Put a new layer above it, just like that. That always goes above where you're on. There's our new layer. Back to our gradient tool, and again from the center here to the center there, kind of like that, and same thing, bottom to center, and that gives us that gradient in there. Okay, deselect. Let's move down to the one right below. There we go. Same idea here. Okay, I'm going to pull up so I can see about the center of that picture. That's right about in there somewhere. Okay, the bottom right hand corner, that is this one down there. There's that shape. You can see that. Same thing. Click on the Move tool, hold the Control key down, click on the icon. That makes your selection. New layer. Back to our gradient tool. Middle of our middle picture down to the middle of this picture, approximately. Middle of this down to the middle of this. There's the gradient. And then deselect. Same trick on our final picture right down here. And that's this one. There's that ellipse. There's the shape above the ellipse. Double check. That's it. Move tool, Control key, and click. There's your selection. New layer, gradient tool, and then center to center, and then center to center. Those are just kind of approximates, just a way to easily spot that. And then we can deselect that. So that gives us our basic gradients in here. Let's just fit this back to fit on screen. So there's the basic gradient effect. See how this looks much rougher when you're zoomed out a little bit. Don't worry about that. It's not going to be looking like that on the finish. Now I want to make this look more naturalistic in here on these gradients. And we'll do that with the eraser tool. And we'll do each one of these separately. So we're doing upper left hand corner first. So let's just find that one. There's upper left hand corner, so that's the one right here. Again, you can show and hide that to double check. There we go. Go over to the eraser tool, and I have mine set at 205 pixels. Anything around there is good for this. And the brush, it's in the default brushes, but it's way down towards the bottom down here. It's this one here. It's called Chalk, and the size says 36. So if you click on that, it's going to reset your size to 36 down here. And then come down and change that back to 205. And it gives you this kind of a big, you can kind of see it right there, kind of messy chalk effect. Now, on this one, you don't want to pull, you want to just tap. And as you tap, it's going to roughen up that gradient. Just like that. And just do that at the top and the bottom. And it will look like it's more hand-drawn this way. Just like that. There we go. Do the same thing for all of those gradients. Let's do the upper right hand corner, which is this one. Let's just find that. Same thing. I'll come in and I'll just tap in a little bit, just kind of moving around and tapping it, and it roughens up that gradient. There we go. Let's come down to the bottom right hand corner, and we'll find that one. That is right there. There we go. Same thing, just tap, just keep on tapping, and that roughens it up. What we're doing is we're just punching little holes in that gradient so you see the background through it. It looks like it's hand drawn this way. There we go. And then bottom left hand corner, and that's going to be this one right here. It's that. There it is. Same thing. Let's come in, kind of roughen that up. And that helps give us a hand-drawn effect. Adds a bit of randomness into it, which improves that kind of a hand-drawn rustic effect. Okay, so far so good. Now, next little bit, let's just fit on screen again. Next bit is I want to have some gradient in the background here. around the background. We'll come down to the background layer. Let's make a new layer above that. There it is. Go back to our gradient, and I'm going to pull this in from each side about to the middle in here, kind of like that. So let's pull it in like that. There's a gradient. Come down to the bottom, same thing, pull it up. Right hand side, pull it in, and from top, pull it down. And that pulls in that gradient. There it is. Now just go back to that eraser tool and start tapping and just work your way out from the center. And you want to do more erasing inside and less erasing towards the outside edge. And it gives you that nice rustic effect in there. Again, I'm tapping on this. I'm not pulling the brush, I'm just tapping it. It's a whole bunch of little taps. And go clear around the picture doing this tapping effect. And that will give you that hand-drawn kind of a chalk appearance on this. Just go clear around all those edges. There we go, and we're just about done. Now I'm going to show you a couple more little things you can do if you want to take this a bit further. I'll just do 2 demonstrations on that. This is actually just about as far as I'm going to be taking this one. But I'll show you 2 more little steps you can do, and then a little adjustment on your images if you want to adjust your images at all. It's best to wait on adjusting your image quality until you've done everything else, so you can compare that and see how it looks. Okay, I'm just still tapping away, as you can see in here, just tapping away on the mouse and erasing that back out a little bit. And the final one up here. There we go. Just kind of tap out that, maybe do a few just to even things up. There we go. It gives it that nice kind of handmade effect. Okay, now if I zoom in to actual size, a better size, so you can see the real quality of that effect. There's 100%. So there's a real quality of that. Looks like it's been drawn on with chalk or something. Okay, let's back out just a little bit. Let's say you wanted to do a little more in here. You wanted a darker gradient in here along the bottom side of one of your circles. I'll do that demonstration just in this one section. And then right above our kind of chalk layer here, do a new layer above that one. There we go. So again, down towards the bottom here. Grab the polygonal lasso tool and let's make a triangle just like that. It gives us a selection in here, and the gradient will now be limited inside that selection, and it's in behind these 2 ellipses, so it'll look just fine. Let's change our color. Click on the foreground color. And once it's being darker, just come down to a darker color in here. It doesn't matter what it is, just darker from what we were. We were up in here, and just come down to a darker brown there somewhere. That's fine. Choose OK. And back to the gradient tool. It should automatically change. You can see that the left-hand color now matches that new foreground color, so that's good. And then grab from right here, left-hand corner, and pull out to the right a little ways. And that gives you that gradient in there. You can pull it down if you want more gradient up along here. If you want it darker, just come further in as you're pulling that. You can give a nice little kind of soft gradient in there. Then just go back to the eraser. It will still have the same brush on it, and then tap in there, and you can blend that in. So you can use this technique if you want to put in, more colors in your gradient, which looks really nice. So do that. Having 2 or 3 different colors overlapping looks really nice. And also you can darken down that edge in very specific spots this way. So that's how you can go further on that gradient effect. Let's look at one more option here. I'm going to deselect this. Let's say you wanted to have a darkening gradient in here under this edge of the top ellipse on top of that picture. Again, easy to do. Let's find where that picture is. That's right down here, bottom right hand corner. There's your picture right there. Here's the ellipse above that picture. So you want that one. Take the magic wand, make sure that contiguous is selected and that you're on that ellipse layer, and click in the middle. that selects the inside of that ellipse, just like that. Or if you want to, you can click on the paper layer right above that. Same thing, it gives you that inside of that ellipse, and it's underneath, of course, that oval. Then simply put your gradient in right here and erase that back in again. Let's go ahead and do that on a new layer. So new layer, there it is. It's selecting the inside, so that's good. Back to the gradient tool. I'm just going to pull the gradient in like this a little bit. There we go, kind of a nice dark edge gradient in there. Back to the eraser tool, and let's just tap in and back that out a little bit and roughen that gradient up. There we go, and it looks like we came in with some colored chalk and just darkened that edge down right in there, right along that edge. Now if you need to get rid of some more of that, you can just kind of brush in here and you can soften up that edge there a little bit. So there we go. So select and deselect. So the idea behind any of these gradients is you put a new layer right above the surface you want to have your gradient on. Make a selection if you need to limit your gradient, like we did here or in here, and you can then put in your gradient right on that layer, and then use the eraser tool to add texture to that gradient. Okay, there you go. Let's go ahead and see what this looks like fit on screen. I'm going to just pop this out and float this for a second and zoom in a little bit on this. There we go. So there it is. Kind of has an effect of looking like it's cut paper, pasted onto a page. Again, a little more of a gradient down here, that little demo right there, and the demo right in here, a little more gradient in right there if you want to add more color in different spots. At this point, you can look at your picture and then make any final decisions. If you want to tone down this effect out here, that's easy to do. Just work with the opacity on that layer. Here it is, layer 6. And just bring the opacity down, and you can minimize that effect or just make that a bit more subtle if you want to. Keep in mind you have a couple of layers in here. Here's layer 7 is that little shading right in there. Bring that back just a little bit to kind of blend it in a little bit better, and we'll do the same thing down here with that little effect right in there. You can also soften these up by doing just a little bit of a Gaussian blur on those if you want to. And when you're doing your erasing, if you want more control on the erasing, if it's coming in too ragged for you, just change the setting on the eraser and bring the opacity down about halfway, about 50% or so, like that, and it won't erase as fast and give you more control when you're working with that. Okay, so there we go. That is how to do this scrapbook style page. Thank you for watching my video. I hope you found it useful. If you like this video, click on the like button below to let others know. You can click the subscribe button so you don't miss any of my videos in the future. I'm frequently uploading new training videos. Don't forget to check out my website at howtogurus.com.